Jimmy Kimmel.
At first, it seemed like just another weeknight monologue. Millions of viewers tuned in, expecting the usual mix of jokes, celebrity banter, and the kind of late-night commentary that had made Jimmy Kimmel a household name for years. But what unfolded that Monday night would ignite a firestorm that few saw coming. Within hours, the internet was ablaze with speculation. Politicians were weighing in, and one of television's most recognizable hosts was suddenly facing an indefinite removal from the airwaves. The story spread quickly. ABC had pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the air.
We're following a developing story tonight. ABC has suspended Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show indefinitely.
No details, no roadmap, just silence and a swirl of unanswered questions. Was this a matter of ratings? A corporate decision? Or something much more complicated? The uncertainty left a vacuum, and into that space poured endless theories. Some pointed to the comment he made during that opening monologue, an offhand yet pointed remark about politics and tragedy. Others claimed the network had been waiting for the right moment to make a move. Whatever the case, it was clear, this was no ordinary television shakeup. So how does a late-night host, protected by the First Amendment, loved by millions and backed by one of the largest networks in America, suddenly vanish from the air? To understand, you have to pull back and look at the larger machinery behind broadcasting in the United States. Because while a single comment might spark outrage, the decision to silence a voice on national television often has far deeper roots.
I always wanted to know what it felt like to be Jerry Springer, so thank you very much.
In Kimmel's case, the remark in question was sharp, critical, and undeniably political. He accused a group of trying to twist a tragedy into something it wasn't, of turning grief into a weapon for points. To some, it was just another example of a comedian speaking his mind, a classic display of satire and commentary. To others, it was offensive, a step too far. But here's the twist. Under the law, such words are considered opinion.
During our show for most of the country, we are still not on the air on a number of ABC affiliates.
And in America, opinion sits squarely under the shield of the First Amendment. From a purely legal standpoint, nothing he said should have been enough to raise alarms. But broadcasting has never been just about the words. It's about who controls the stage on which those words are spoken. And that takes us straight to the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC. For decades, the FCC has been the government body tasked with overseeing broadcasting on the public airwaves. Unlike cable or satellite platforms, which fall largely outside its authority, broadcast television is subject to rules and oversight because it uses frequencies owned by the public. That oversight, though, is surprisingly narrow.
As of Monday morning, Jimmy Kimmel still hasn't spoken out amid protests as the comedian.
The FCC doesn't micromanage content. It doesn't decide which shows survive and which disappear. Its reach is mostly limited to matters like obscenity, indecency, profanity, or regulations around children's programming. Still, there's always been a gray area. Something known as news distortion lurks in the background of FCC oversight. It's a vague concept, one that suggests a broadcaster might face trouble if it intentionally misrepresents or suppresses certain stories. In practice, it's been little more than a shadow on the books for years, rarely invoked. Yet lately, whispers suggest that may be changing. Some political voices argue that broadcasters should be held accountable not just for obscenity, but for how they frame the news itself. And in that atmosphere, every controversial broadcast becomes a potential lightning rod. This is where the corporate side collides with the regulatory one.
Shocked. That's the reaction from Jimmy Kimmel and his staff after they got the news their show was suspended indefinitely.
ABC doesn't exist in a vacuum. It is part of a vast network of owned and affiliated stations, many of which are licensed individually by the FCC. The licenses belong to the local stations, not the network brand itself, which means when controversy erupts, it's not just a matter of what one host says, it's about whether dozens, even hundreds, of local stations will suddenly face scrutiny that could threaten their ability to broadcast at all. That's why companies like Nexstar, which owns more than 200 local stations across the country, sometimes move swiftly. 32 of those stations carry ABC programming, and each one depends on maintaining a good relationship with regulators. When Kimmel's words drew headlines, Nexstar responded quickly, declaring the remarks offensive and insensitive. Pulling the show wasn't just about public outrage, It was about protecting billions of dollars in business tied up in mergers, acquisitions, and deals that rely on FCC approval. Behind the curtain, television isn't just about content. It's about empire building. Every program, every affiliate relationship is a piece of a much larger puzzle. And then there's the political theater that inevitably surrounds an incident like this. Not long after the decision was announced, reporters asked former President Donald Trump about the controversy. His response was blunt. Kimmel wasn't pulled because of free speech, he claimed, but because of ratings.
Kimmel he was fired, he had no talent, he had no ratings.
Low ratings, to be exact. Whether that explanation holds water or not, it added another layer of uncertainty. Was this about business performance, political pressure, regulatory fear, or a mix of all three? No one could say for sure. What complicates everything further is the distinction between legal responsibility and ethical responsibility.
I support Jimmy Kimmel.
I think Jimmy Kimmel's terrible. You know what suspended him? His talent.
Legally, Kimmel's words were protected. Ethically, though, networks and broadcasters often weigh a different balance. Do they have a duty to consider the climate of outrage, the impact of words on grieving families, or the potential for a comment to inflame divisions? In today's landscape, where social media outrage can build to a storm within hours, many companies have adopted a zero-tolerance approach. One wrong move, one viral clip, and a career can be over. It's a shift from even just a few years ago, when controversial comments might have led to criticism, but not immediate dismissal. That's where the larger First Amendment debate comes roaring back. Free speech, by design, protects the things we dislike as much as the things we celebrate. If it only covered agreeable, polite speech, there would be no need for it at all. And yet, in practice, the boundary between what is legally protected and what is tolerated by employers, advertisers, and affiliates has grown blurrier with every passing year.
We send love to the Kirks and to all the children, parents, and innocents who fall victim to senseless gun violence.
One side argues that consequences are necessary, that words carry weight and responsibility must follow. So where does that leave Kimmel? The answer lies not in law, but in contracts and corporate decisions. Late-night hosts, like many performers, operate under agreements that often contain vague provisions allowing for termination under certain circumstances. Morals clauses have existed for decades, giving networks the option to sever ties if a star's behavior is deemed damaging to the brand. It doesn't require criminal acts or legal violations, just the perception of harm, which means that no matter how strongly the First Amendment protects speech from government interference, it does nothing to shield someone from the consequences imposed by private employers. That distinction between government action and corporate choice is at the heart of this entire story.
Isn't talk show supposed to be like kind of an American thing?
The First Amendment binds the government, not ABC or Nexstar. If the government had stepped in to silence Kimmel, it would be a clear violation of constitutional rights. But when a network chooses to pull its host, the battle shifts to the realm of contracts, ethics, and business strategy. Could Kimmel challenge the decision in court? Perhaps, depending on the details of his agreement. But unless there was a blatant breach of contract, his path to reinstatement would be uncertain at best. Was it truly the words spoken in that monologue, the political currents swirling around them, or simply the cold calculation of business executives trying to protect their empire? The answer may never be fully revealed. Broadcasting has always been a delicate dance between free expression, corporate power, and political pressure. What we see on our screens is only the surface. Beneath it lies a constant tug of war, one that determines who gets to speak.
And you almost have to feel sorry for the people who work for him, who try to clean up the messes.
Who gets silenced, and what kind of discourse makes it into America's living rooms. For Jimmy Kimmel, the immediate future remains uncertain. Perhaps this storm will pass and he'll return to his seat behind the desk. Perhaps networks will decide the risk is too great and late-night television will move on without him. Either way, the controversy has already forced millions to confront uncomfortable questions about the balance between speech, responsibility, and power. And maybe that's the real story here. Not just the fate of one comedian, but the way every word spoken into a microphone now carries the weight of political scrutiny.
Lisa Ann Walter is here. We have music from Youngblood, and we'll be maybe right back with Ethan Hawke.
If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Should a late-night host face removal for speaking their mind? Or should networks stand firm in defense of free expression? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the stories shaping our world, don't forget to hit subscribe. There are plenty more conversations ahead and you won't want to miss them.